Welcome to Manu Forti Ministries presents Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny. I am your host, Reggie Key, and today I have with me Selena Kunicki. Selena, nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you too.
How have you been?
I've been good. I'm thriving at this point.
Oh, that's what I like to hear. So what grade are you going to?
I am now my 11th year.
11th grade. And you're
Mm-hmm.
restarting. You've relocated. I'm gonna put all your business out there, but you've relocated
That
from
is fine.
Elgin, Illinois, down south. Let's keep it generic. And I'm down south now too. I don't know, when did you move?
We moved in February. It was like out of nowhere. My mom was like, "Oh, we're leaving now." And I was like, I was like, "You give me no time?"
Yeah. So February 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we moved November of 2020. So we moved around the same time, like within 3 months. Okay. But we're not here to talk about moving and readjusting. Although there could be some readjustment that happens as we begin to discuss our topic for today. But I want to talk about this workshop and book that I've developed, whereby I am seeing that there is genius all around me, but by and large, people don't see it within themselves. And that creates a dilemma because, Selena, I don't know about you, but I look around and I see that the world is broken. Do you see that?
I see it every day.
And I believe, yeah, you have the same eyes I do. And I believe that brokenness that we've been put on the planet, not just you and me, but humankind has been put on the planet to help restore the world and put it back in order and to repair the brokenness. But how do we do that becomes the question, right? And so the question that I have that follows that up for you to answer right now to jump us off is, Selena, do you consider yourself to be a genius?
In some areas, I can be.
Okay. You can't
not fully. I'm halfway there.
Now, I like your response. We're going to get into that a little more because I feel like people definitely have a preconceived definition of what genius is, and I'm here to deconstruct that. You said in some areas, and what to me, when I heard you say that, it's like you're implying that to be a genius, you have to be like all encompassing. You have to be like good at everything, and that's not true. Even the people who we consider to be geniuses aren't geniuses at everything. And the very thing that we're going to get into today is that one of my guests once said that you have zeros and nines. He said, hey, look, when I'm good at something, I'll rate myself at a 9. I'll never give myself a 10 because I'll get complacent. There's always room to improve. There's always something to learn at what I'm good at. But then he identifies what he zeros at too. He's like, there's some stuff I'm not good at. And it's important to know, as you're identifying your genius, what you're good at and what you're not good at, and realize that you don't have to be good at everything to deem yourself a genius. Okay, so you're already on the right track. You're like, I'm good in some things, and that's what I really want to hear. Selena, there are some people who say I'm not good at anything, right? And I think you have some peers who are probably saying that, who I would love to talk to. Actually, we'll get into that a little later.
I got you.
So as we continue to deconstruct this word genius, my next follow-up question for you is, who comes to mind when you do think of what a genius looks like?
I don't mean this to be like, listen, just because she's my older sister doesn't have anything to do with that. Because I consider Kayla genius sometimes. Because when I have conversations with her, I'm like, who are you talking? Like, where are you getting this from? I'm like, you know a bit too much.
That's what's up, though. I mean, I just interviewed her recently, so that means it's in line. That's why you're here, because she recommended you. And that's the beautiful thing about it. So I love this happens a few times. It happened to me yesterday with the person who I interviewed, where the person that they identified was also someone who they could identify with because it was a relative. And that's really good, because if it's relative that you see as being genius, guess what? Genius is in the DNA, it's in the blood. It's how God created us. It's how God groups us into these different families to manifest specific types of genius based off of passion, talent, and purpose. We'll talk about those 3 components a little later. But it's good that you see that in your sister, because she's your blood relative. And if it's in her, Kayla, it has to be, I mean, Selena, if it's in Kayla, your sister, then Selena, it has to be in you. That's just how I see it. So we'll talk about that a little more. But most people though don't ascribe genius to someone who they see themselves in or who they can relate to. Most of the time, they actually relate it to somebody who has nothing to do with them, which begins to create this gap between this word genius and the person who has defined what a genius is. It's an interesting kind of phenomenon that I actually saw happen this week at our church. So I had our church youth. We have a summer camp this week. I said, well, what defines a genius? And they put all these different things on the board, right? And when I went through and said, okay, based off of these definitions, like, a person who invents, a person who's a problem solver, I said, how many of you identify with these traits? And by and large, out of about 12 students, only about 3 of them raised their hand. So I said, that's interesting. So, and by the way, when I asked who was a genius, only 3 people raised their hands. 2 of them were my children, and 1 was someone who had been in this workshop before. All 3 of them had heard the workshop before, so they already knew, like, yeah, I know I'm a genius, right? So they almost don't. So the whole room basically didn't identify with being genius. And then when we talked about the individual traits that they said make up what a genius looks like, none of them identified with it. And I say, well, that doesn't surprise me, that the things that you define to be a genius, you don't see it in yourself, because that's why you didn't raise your hand when I asked you, do you consider yourself to be a genius? So there is a person that comes to most people's mind that they're not related to. That's a nationally recognized name that when people hear genius, they're like, him. Who do you think that person is? What name comes to mind outside of your sister Kayla? Just generically, who do you think comes to most people's mind when they think of genius?
I'll be honest, I thought of Albert Einstein out of nowhere.
Absolutely. See, you said out of nowhere. You're like, I don't know. We all have been programmed to think of Albert Einstein. And Selena, I'm not trying to take anything away from Einstein. He was a genius, right? But he was a very specific type of genius. What we've done is we've said that he defines that word. And because he defines that word, if I don't identify with Einstein, then it's like I disassociate myself from this word as well. And we're shortchanging ourselves when we do that. Because, that's like me looking at you and being like, well, because I don't look like Selena, then I'm never going to go to Moody Bible Institute. The shirt that what you have on your shirt, right? Or you say, I have the Kingdom Advancement Center on my shirt. I'm looking the wrong way. The Kingdom Advancement Center is the church that I go to. And that your sister belongs to this church. But that would be like you saying, well, I don't look like you, Reggie, so I can't belong to your church. That doesn't make sense, right?
No.
The church is not about everybody acquiescing to the same thing. The church is about, hey, one body, many members, many different diverse members that make up this body that Jesus is the head of. And so we have to get out of this mindset where we say, well, Einstein is a genius, that means I'm not. That's not how this works. He was one type. And when I go into a room of 12 students, when there's 12, 10, 5, 300, I'm looking at a diverse group of geniuses that have unique, like there's a uniqueness to them that separates them from everybody else. You know what's funny? I just found my laptop cord. I got
there you go. Come on.
Sometimes I move too fast, Selena. Sometimes I'm like, bow, bow, bow. And then I'm like, where's my thing? It's already here, but I'm looking over there because I did it and then forgot that I did whatever. We're good like this. I'm not going to switch it back again.
Here we are. Your angle's perfectly fine.
What do you think about what I'm saying so far? Do you agree like that there?
I do, yeah. I mean, yeah, because because we learn about it in school, we tend to think that geniuses are people that are already gone and not with us anymore. Like people that made the light, the person that made a car, we expect them to be geniuses. But like you're not wrong, because genius, like they did one thing only. Like, they're known for the light bulb. Yeah. That's it, nothing else. Genius is just, so I agree with you totally, yeah.
All right, cool. So you with me so far. What high school did you go to again when you were in Elgin?
I went to Elgin High School.
I thought so. I thought so, but I wasn't sure. So I've been doing this workshop for a decade there with the AVID program, with Genius Hour. And when I first started developing this workshop, I used to tell the students, I'm like, hey, look, the person that cleans the floor and gets the scuff marks off the floor and has that thing looking shiny day after day, no matter how many people have trodden over it, I'm like, that person has their own genius. They're doing something that nobody else can do. And we have to
Right.
stop discrediting people because of what level, socioeconomic, what their IQ is, what their GPA is. That defines, again, one type of genius, but it doesn't mean that that's all encompassing of what all genius must look like. Everyone must have high GPA. Everyone must have high IQ. Einstein had a high IQ, but he wasn't a strong student. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, he's not my boat.
He thought differently. He thought outside of the system that the school had put in place. And so a lot of times I've read a little bit about him and seen some movies about him. And he was one of those kids that got a note home from the teacher saying, hey, Einstein's parents, you might want to make sure he works with his hands because he's not getting it. He's not picking it up here. And if they had believed that label that the school was trying to put on him, we might have been denied this intellect that we are universally renowned as genius. Even when he got into college, his professors, he was not their favorite student because while they're teaching, he's looking out the window and they're like, hello, Einstein, are you paying attention? And you know what he was doing, Selena, when he was looking out the window? He was imagining what it would look like to ride a beam of light from the sun to the earth. And in doing that, he developed the theory of relativity. He was a visual thinker. And so these people who don't do a visual type of learning style is like, you don't belong in, you don't fit in. And so we have to embrace our individuality, what doesn't make us fit in, and understand that it's allowing us to get into our genius. You still with me?
I'm still with you.
All right, cool. So I have a quote for you that I'd like to recite to you. And it purportedly comes from Einstein. There's been some recent, it might not have come from Einstein. It doesn't really matter who it comes from because the quote to me is powerful. You may have heard it. You gotta let me know once I say it, if you need me to say it again, if you've heard it before and how you interpret it. Like, what does it mean to you? Okay? You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go. Here it is. If you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life thinking it's stupid.
Wait, can you say it one more time for me? I want to make sure I heard it right.
Yeah, no problem. If you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life thinking it's stupid.
Okay. I've never heard a quote like that.
Okay.
I don't even understand what it means because I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna tell you what I think. Okay. So fish can't climb trees. And so if you're trying to figure out how long it takes to climb that, if you're trying to figure out how long it takes that fish to climb, well, see, I get the first half, not the ending.
Okay. So here's the thing. That I talked about how we've been programmed, most people, because out of the thousands of people who have heard my workshop that you're actually getting one-on-one right now, most people, I would say 90%, have been programmed to think of Albert Einstein when they think of genius. Somehow in our growing up, we've been programmed to be like genius, Einstein, right? And so this fish is getting programmed in the same way. Somebody off-site is saying, hey, look, you should be climbing trees. Let's assume this fish is sentient. They can understand human language, right? And it's like, hey, you should be climbing a tree. You're not climbing that. You haven't climbed this tree by now. And whoever's programming this fish to believe that it needs to be trying to climb this tree, they never come out and say you're stupid. But the fish, the sentient fish, begins to think like something is wrong with me because they're telling me I need to climb this tree and I can't climb it. I'm dumb. Because the programming has been happening over and over again. Whenever somebody encounters a fish, instead of looking at the fish for a fish, and every human being on this planet knows that fish belong in water, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're designed for water. They're streamlined. They have gills, fins, and scales. That screams water. But for some reason, in this scenario, in this quote, this fish has been convinced that I need to climb this tree. That's not his element. That's not what it was designed. God did not make this fish to climb trees. He made a fish to swim in water. And if somebody would just take a minute to look at this fish and say, you know what, I see what you've been designed to do, and I'm going to put you in your element, you would see in an instant the genius of this fish, because it would shoot off. You wouldn't be able to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Unless you Aquaman,
Yeah.
when you get in the water with a fish, you're not going to be able to swim as fast as a fish. This fish is operating at a high level because it's in its element. And by and large, we need to find our element to be able to understand what our genius is. In this metaphor, I switched from it being a quote to a metaphor. In this metaphor, if Einstein entered into this metaphor, this quote that purportedly comes from him, he would be a bear because he climbs trees, easy. Like the tree represents physics. He's like, yo, I can climb that. Like, no problem, I'm a bear, that's what I do. But when we try to say I'm not a genius because Einstein is a bear that climbs trees and I'm a fish, then we've denied and forgotten who we are. Put that bear in the water and it's not going to be able to keep up with the fish. But that's not the thing. This fish is literally, you ever heard the expression "a fish out of water"?
Yes, I have heard it.
That just means like, hey, this person is like, doesn't belong here. And literally, that's what this quote is about. This fish is out of water. And what happens to a fish that stays out of water for too long?
It can die at this point. Loses oxygen, loses everything.
It's going to die. It's inevitable. It's going to die. And so I see, Selena, dying genius all around me because I see people not in their lane. I see people not in their element, but then judging themselves based off of this element that they were never designed to be in the first place. And I feel like God has put me purposely, like pricked my heart to recognize dying genius around me and to revitalize, resuscitate, and resurrect it. And so that's what this workshop is all about. That's what this interview is all about. I want to make sure that when you leave today, you can say without a shadow of a doubt, yeah, I'm a genius though. As much as you respond to me calling you Selena, I want you to be able to respond to me calling you a genius and be like, yes.
Talking to me.
Talking to you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so to help us get into your element, we're going to, I said this trio earlier, we're going to bring back these three components and talk about them a little more, okay? Those three components that help define genius, as God gave me this equation, are passion, talent, and purpose. All right? Passion, talent, purpose. The passion part really defines what your element is, okay? But how I'm going to define passion, Selena, is going to be a little different than what you're used to, okay?
All right, I'm ready.
Tell me what you think of. What words, phrases come to mind when you hear this word passion?
Something that you just love to do, like without a doubt. Something that is just, I don't know. For me, it calms you. You know, like you're able to go to that, not have to worry you down in the world anymore. Like you just do what you love. You
said it calls to you. It stands out to you. That's exactly a part of it. There's a lot of ways that you can define passion. I want to take one thing that you said and flip it on its ear, though, if that's okay.
Go for it.
When I go to Elsman High School, and were you in the AVID program?
I was not.
So you know what AVID was, though. It was just a college prep. So I would go to AVID and I would talk to them about college, and I would say, hey, look, if you want to figure out what your major should be, don't figure it out based on money. That's what my generation was told to do. Do what's going to get you paid. But I know people who make six figures who are like unhappy though, like really depressed going to work. So money has nothing to do with it. Passion has everything to do with it. You can figure out your genius. You can figure out what college, if you need to go to college, one, and then two, what your major should be. Okay. So people love to tell people your age, young people your age, hey man, when you get to your career, do what you love. You just said it. It's another kind of programming that we have. But I'm going to kind of undo your programming a little bit.
Go for it.
I'm going to come from the opposite end of the spectrum from this word love. And I'm going to say, Selena, if you want to figure out what your passion is, you should focus on what you hate. Now,
Okay.
to be fair, I didn't come up with this concept. There's a book that I read by a Christian author by the name of Mike Murdoch, who said, hey, look, the book is called The Assignment. And he was like, if you want to find out what God designed you, what your assignment, what your God-ordained assignment is, figure out what you hate. And I'm like, And so as you continue reading, what he basically says is this. Because have you ever heard the expression, I hate that with a passion?
Yes, that I have heard.
Yeah, so the two things are connected, but just we don't think about it a lot. Because people are programmed to get a little anxious when you start saying, hey, like, I don't know if I'm gonna ask you in a minute what you hate. And it wouldn't surprise me if you're like, well, I don't know that I hate anything. People get real.
Strongly dislike is the word.
Yeah, I'd rather say dislike, and I'm fine with that. I mean, it's semantics to me. It's just getting into the concept of, we talked earlier when we first got on, we talked about the brokenness of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
We agree that the world is broken. But Selena, there's something about the brokenness of the world that really speaks to you. When you see it, you're like, oh, I don't like that. I hate that. Or dislike, right? And most of the time, the things that we begin to look at that's broken in the world that affects us in a negative way, that traumatizes us or traumatizes somebody we love, that's the thing that when we see it operating or we see it existing in the world, we'll just feel like somebody should do something about that. And the more we see it functioning, the more we see it hurting people, the more we see it bringing disorder where there should be order, we'll keep focusing on it like, man, I hate that. And that thing that keeps drawing you, that keeps getting your attention, it's there for a reason. Like God is, first of all, it's something that grieves God's heart. It's something that he hates. He hates sin and wickedness, right? We're not talking about hating people, not at all. We're talking about hating, like if you were to ask that fish from that quote, what do you hate? And again, this is a sentient fish that can understand English and speak English, yes. But if you were to talk to that fish and say, what do you hate? I imagine that he was, I hate this tree.
Right.
Day after day, I try to climb this tree and I fail and I hate it. I hate this place. I hate failing. I hate that I can't do what somebody has told me. I've gotten in my mind that I'm supposed to do, right? And so when you begin to look at the world in that perspective, I have several things that I hate, but I'm not going to share it because it's not about me, it's about you. When you begin to look around and understand that, hey, God has grieved my heart with a portion of what grieves his heart, because when he looks on the earth, he sees this brokenness. Like I said, he saw it from the beginning and said, I need to put somebody down there in my image and likeness that has my authority, because I'm going to give them my authority, that can set right what has gotten out of pocket on the planet, right? Satan fell to the earth as Lucifer. He became the adversary, Satan. When he fell to the earth, he began ruling over the earth. He began to get it out of disorder. God saw that and said, somebody need to do something about that. I'm gonna put somebody down there that looks like me, that's going to put him under my feet again. It's going to bring the earth back into order. So when you see that thing operating, you're going to be like David and Goliath. David saw Goliath and heard him talking trash for 40 days and was like, is nobody going to do nothing about this cat? Like, nobody? You know what?
Right.
I got something for him. He didn't care how big giant Goliath was relative to him. Right? And so the thing that we typically tend to hate is going to be systems. It's going to be something large because it impacts not just you, but multiple people. And you're like, that shouldn't be. But we won't care how big it is. We'll chip away at it because we're driven by passion to go towards it and do something about it. What do you think about that? How we're looking at, how we're redefining passion?
It's a new perspective, but hey, man. It is what it is. I like it though. I like it because it's now I have something else in mind when I think of passion, because it's a unique way of thinking. You know, instead of thinking of something that I think I love, I just start thinking of stuff I hate. You know.
Yeah.
So,
now, to be honest, I will give you an example because I don't want you to completely throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, "Well, forget what I love. I don't want to focus on that anymore." I love hip hop. Okay, I'm a huge fan of hip hop, but I hate where it is right now. You see the two? It's like a love relationship. I love the culture, the music of it. I love the creativity of it. I love how it gives a voice to the voiceless. I love how it can get people's attention, but I don't love what it's been doing once it gets your attention now. It's destructive now. I hate how it's being executed. I feel like the rappers today are dishonoring the platform that this industry, this culture has created. And so because I love it, I critique it. Like, you need to do better, be better. I represent it better. I'm like, hey, when I get on the mic and I recite a poem, I'm gonna show I can do a whole poem and not put a curse word in. I want you to I want to show people what that looks like, because I hate how it's being represented now. I was talking to my guy the other day. He was like, hip hop has been weaponized now. It's just it's weaponized, it's over sexualized and all about money, and it's weaponized. And I was like, that's not what it was meant to be. So that's how you can still have this love-hate relationship with this thing. So my question to you now, Selena, is what is your thing? What do you hate?
I'm gonna say injustice. That's something that I've always, when someone's like the unfair, someone not getting punished. And I don't mean like in a physical way, but like someone not getting punished for what they did and someone else having to suffer because, something could have been taken away from them. They experienced something, and that person wasn't found guilty or anything. So I personally, I just hate injustice because, especially with our, just with kids at school too, just not just in politics and like, people getting murdered and all that, but I mean injustice in general, when someone isn't getting the way they should be treated fairly, they're not getting what they're arguing or fighting for. And so that's my first thought. I can't really think of anything else. It's just, that's
yeah,
right there.
That's big enough, right? Because injustice starts to deal with the system of justice, which means that if there's injustice, then this system that we've built in this country and around the world for that matter, anywhere where there's injustice, then there is a system that is broken. Because there's a system that's supposed to deliberate and is supposed to disseminate justice. And when it doesn't do it fairly because of the laws that are governing it, there's something that needs to be changed. That's huge, though. I don't know if you remember this. This happened like 3 years ago, but there was a woman who was shot to death by Elgin Police Department. And they deemed it a good shoot because it was by the book. And so some of the faith leaders, including myself and some of the community leaders, started having this dialogue with the police that took over a year where we said, hey, look, if you guys are saying that that was a good shoot, we need to see the book. We need to see the laws that deem that to be a good shoot, because those laws need to be changed. Right. And we did it without a lot. We weren't, just because you hate something doesn't mean that you have to be emotional about it. You don't have to be like, well, fire. We were calm, we were cool, we were collected, but we were serious. And we said, let's sit down and have a dialogue and understand both sides, and then see how can we restore the community. Because injustice tends to, because injustice is not a new thing, it's gone back generations. Whenever it happens, it evokes the past. Like, this happened before. Why does this keep happening? It's a pattern, it's a cycle. Why do certain people keep getting this injustice and certain people keep getting away? And so once it's a trigger, your passion is a trigger most times. It's like, I've seen this happen before. I don't want to see it happen to anybody else again, right? And so we eventually talked to the EPD and got the laws changed. What they deem to be a good shoot is now no longer what it used to be. And it's a small change because it's one police department, but that begins to trigger and have impact. And that victory gives courage to those who participated. And now you're hearing it. I hope it encourages you to be like, hey, like, things can change, right? And so, again, I want to say this. God has given you, because do you think God hates injustice?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
I know he does.
He does. So he's like, the scales are, in the Bible, it calls unbalanced scales an abomination. It's like, that's not cool. Don't do that, right? So this is something that God has given you. He's uniquely made you this way to focus on injustice and to be a person that says, you want to do something about this though? This is not cool, right? But now we have to move on from finding out brokenness and getting into, well, once you find something that's broken, what do you need to do? You need to fix it, right? You see something that's broken, if you look at it and say, I have the wherewithal, I think I have the knowledge to fix this thing, then the next thing you're going to look for is, well, what tool do I have to fix it, right? Because not every tool is for every job, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to David and Goliath, I don't know how familiar you are with this story, but King Saul was like, here, take my armor. If you're going to fight this giant, take my armor. This armor, David was a child at the time. And Saul was a full-grown man. He was like, take my armor. And David was like, this don't fit me right. No, don't. I don't want the king's armor. Give me my slingshot. I'll kill lions and bears with that. I know how to use that. Give me that and 5 smooth stones. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to this giant. He knew the right tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Selena, your tool is your talent. This is the next component of the equation. You got to know what your talent is, and then how to access this God. Because we say this a lot. Even people that aren't Christian tend to say, like, he just has God-given talent. And that's exactly true. Like, all the talent that you possess is not really your possession. It's God's possession. He's just lending it to you. He's like, what you going to do with it? Right? So you know, a lot of us get selfish with our talent. We just focus on us. And I mean, getting to this thing of genius is about self-affirmation. But once you affirm yourself, then you're like, all right, genius always focuses on the next thing that it focuses on is other people around you. Who can I impact with this genius that I have so that they are a better person? This environment is better once I have begun interacting with it. Once I become interacting with it. Once I've contributed and given my all to whatever the environment or situation calls for. So, Selena, I feel like I kind of remember from Crossroads, but can you tell me what your talent is?
You know, I'm gonna list like maybe 3 the most from what I know, and then from what people have told me that is a blessing that I've gotten. One is teaching. That one I've heard for all my life. Okay. Another one is just worshiping, you know, singing. And then one that I just heard recently, and I've been hearing it over and over, is just the way and the flow of how I talk, you know. Okay, so you're a good communicator. Last one. I'm still trying to figure out that last one, but that's what I've been told a couple of times. So I've been keeping that to memorize in heart. Okay, so you're a good communicator. People have been telling me recently. That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm thinking. That's what they mean. Have you? So you said recently. So that means people in Mississippi that are getting to know you, not people who have known you all your life, but people who are seeing you now as Selena, the 10th grader becoming 11th grader, say that you're a good communicator. Yes. It's important to pay attention. And this is why it's so great to kind of have restarts sometimes, because people can get we love to project things on other people. And the people who grew up with you, the people who watched you grow up, your family and your friends from Elgin, can say like, oh, well, Selena, you do this, that, and the third. But they're saying that based off of what they do from you, like as a child growing up. You're a young adult now. And so it's important to hear what these people in the South are saying to you now, because this is all they know of you. They've only known you for like a year and some change, right? And so it's important that you don't have to throw out one for the other. Your talents, people can have multiple things that they hate. I do. People can have multiple talents. I do. So it's not a big thing. It's not a surprise that you have multiples, but it's good that you're getting new, fresh eyes to look on you, because we are very good at identifying things that are good about other people. I mean, we judge, right? Bad and good. But we always tend to overlook ourselves. So I'm glad when I heard you hesitate, the first thing I was going to say was, what do other people say about you? What do other people say that you're good at? So I'm glad that you have those 3 things, okay? Because if you go back to what I'm saying, your talent is your tool that God has given you to fix the injustice that drives your passion. And so now the question just becomes, well, how do I fit all this together? It's like a puzzle that's in front of you now. And you know, one thing that I think we as a people universally hate is failure. That's why a lot of people don't like math. I worked on this problem for 10 minutes. I got the wrong answer. You know what? Forget math. I don't need math. I don't want to do that again.
But a failure, there's an acronym for fail. It's just a first attempt in learning. You ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
You should lock that one in. A first attempt in learning is all a fail is. So there is no failure as long as you learn from the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why am I bringing that up, though, Selena? Why am I talking about genius and I've gotten to the talent? Why am I bringing that up? I just talked about how putting this together is like a puzzle. Like, have you ever put together a puzzle?
I have, but I suck at them.
Well, then I guess this is going to answer my question. Have you ever put it together flawlessly the first time? No, right?
Not by myself.
You know anybody that's ever done that by themselves? Like every piece that they've picked, from first to 500, they pick the right piece every time to put it in order the first time. You know anybody that does that? I've never heard of anybody that can do that. Because you have to pick up a piece and try to fit it together. Oh, that doesn't work. Let me switch the orientation. Oh, this is not the right piece at all. And that's a fail. But they learned. They didn't just keep trying to make the same piece fit into the same other piece. They said, no, that's not it. And eventually this tapestry, this vision, this picture begins to reveal itself because they're learning from their failures to get to this final product. And that's what we're doing with Genius. You are hearing this for the first time. So you might not get like, well, how do I make teaching, worshiping, and or being a good communicator address injustice? But you got to keep kind of putting it together. Matter of fact, Selena, that's your purpose. The last part of this equation, your purpose in life is to recognize what your God-given talent is and use it as a tool to address your God-given passion. And when you figure that out, Selena, you're going to unlock your genius. So can I tell you a story?
What's up?
Because I hope this helps clarify and crystallize it even more. So I had a chance to talk to some 10th graders. No, it wasn't 10th graders at all. It was 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. It's about 10 of them. And they were in this school in the U46 school district. And the principal called me and said, hey, can you come talk to these young men because they're having some problems. So they're 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, Selena, but they're all in one class all day. Does that sound normal? Does that sound like a productive environment to you? Do 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders belong in one class all day?
Not really, no. Why?
No. They're different. They're at different grade levels, which means they're learning at different paces, but yet in the same, they're all in one class all day. They don't interact with the other students at all. They're on an IEP. You recognize what that is, right? An individual education plan. What in my generation it would have been called special ed. They had all, so Genius is all about positive labels, but they had nothing but negative labels put on it. You got ADD, you got ADHD, you are emotionally imbalanced, you are disruptive in class, you have outbursts. We can't put you in a normal population of school. We got to put you in this one classroom, fish out of water. So I said, I'm gonna start talking to them about their genius. So first of all, when I said, hey, look, you guys are a genius, Selena, they looked at me and got offended. It was like, who you talking to? It was like, this guy, like, I think you're in the wrong class, homie. It was like, nah, we're not geniuses. They were used to being told what they were used to. They were like this fish. They've been programmed to be like, you're dumb because you're not climbing this tree. Not, hey, you're a fish. Let's figure out where the nearest stream, river, water, whatever it is, so you can thrive. No, they were told like, hey, you don't fit in here, so you don't really belong. Without saying it, but being in that classroom all day, that's what they were saying. So I know that I can get kids to talk in a minute if I ask them what they hate. And so I asked them, what do you hate? And Selena, what do you think that these young boys told me? These 10 young boys who could never agree on anything, what to play, when to go outside, whatever. They could never agree on anything. It was always arguing with one another. But they all told me the same thing. What do you think they told me they hated?
I'm thinking a couple different things.
Okay.
Okay. Was it I'm gonna try to get the right answer. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Not trying to be wrong today. I got this. Whew. Okay, I think that what they all agreed upon. See, I have two different answers.
Just tell. Let me know.
One of them could have been that, I don't know, they just didn't like, they kind of hated that they were there.
Where's there? Where's there, though? Where is there?
On the room, no?
Okay, but that room is a part of a bigger building. What is that bigger building called?
School.
School. It was like, we hate school, Mr. Key. Now what? And they was looking at me like, yeah, what's you gonna do with that? Because they thought that was just the worst answer. They thought they had messed my whole presentation up. And I said, I'm so glad you said that. I said, I understand why you would hate school, because this school is making you feel like a fish out of water. It's making you feel like you don't belong. A fancier word is it's marginalizing them, pushing them to the side. And I said, it makes sense that you hate school because the school system is broken. The school system is traumatizing them because the school system is telling them you should be learning this way, but you're not. So here's where the genius of this comes in, Selena. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
I said, hey, look, if you're telling me that you hate school, but I'm telling you that the thing that you hate is the thing that you were meant to fix, then I'm looking at 10 future educators. And they were like, that's not how I thought this was going to go. They was looking at me like, oh, snap, what you just say? And I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. I said, hey, look, there are 8, try to get in the camera. There are 8 different learning styles. There we go. That's kind of, there we go. But at most, schools only teach from 3. Schools teach from a visual learning style, an auditory learning style, and a logic, left-brained learning style. That's the people who like math. But if you don't speak one of those learning styles, Selena, then you don't fit in. And no one ever tells you don't fit in, but you start struggling academically. You're like, this doesn't make sense to me. You could be, I'm not going to name all the different other 5 styles, but 2 of them are kinesthetic and exploratory or expeditionary. Kinesthetic means you got to be moving. You process information when you move. But if you're told, Selena, hey, sit down, be still, you shouldn't be moving right now. You move too much, get out. Now you got to be in this other class. Now you're going to feel like, well, no, I don't fit in. If you're exploratory or expeditionary, that means you got to put your hands on stuff in order to process it. But if you're told, hey, keep your hands to yourself, stop touching that, now your learning style is being suppressed, and you just look around like, I hate this place. I don't feel like I fit in here, and nobody's trying to make me fit in, right? That's why I say that's half the problem. But the solution, no, that's not half the problem. That's the entire problem. The solution to it is, instead of running away from what you hate, run towards it in education and become a teacher and let your learning style become your teaching style. Because once your learning style becomes your teaching style, you're going to reach other students who are sitting there feeling like this another language. This information doesn't make sense to me, until somebody starts teaching from a kinesthetic place and not a kinesthetic learner. It's like, I'm picking this up. That's like a game changer, Selena. That fixes the whole, I mean, there are a lot of problems, with the school system, but I believe that can fix a large part of it. You want the teachers representing every learning style that's out there. But right now, the solution is being pushed to the side and left to feel like I don't belong here. And the school system stays broken. Do you see that?
I do.
I think that's like pretty dope. Right? And so every industry in the world does a similar thing though. Hey, we built this system, somebody comes in and doesn't fit to the system, you're not gonna fix the system. Just like injustice. We're not gonna fix the laws. We're just gonna tell you, hey, if it came upon you, how it came upon you. Like, you're in jail now. And maybe we should look at the discriminatory, the lopsided percentages that show how many minorities are in jail for the same crime that non-minorities in jail for. Maybe we should look at the laws and fix that. Nope, it just is what it is. We just got a whole bunch of brown and black people in jail. Oh well. Like, nah, the laws need to change. Something is just.
Exactly.
So tell me, Selena, I'm gonna tell you actually because this is a prophetic exercise. The Lord is beginning to speak to me about what it is, how your genius looks. But have you been able to piece this together? Like, how can you use being a teacher, being a good communicator, or being a worshiper to address your passion of not liking, hating injustice?
Well, I feel like teaching community, like the communication I can do. I just don't know about the worshiping one. I know about like the first and last one I said. I know with that I can address injustice in some type of way, because in that form, to even talk about injustice, it's like it takes a while. Well, you gotta understand and all that. But for the first and last one, I know for sure that I could be able to address it in some type of way, in a way that um to make things just easy, and just understandable, simple, nothing too big with really big words, because big words are not my thing. So something just simple, plain, but at the same time, it has the impact that it needs. But the
Yes.
worshiping one is just the one I don't know about.
It makes sense what you're saying, though. I mean, I hear this so often. I don't know why we do this to ourselves. So, hey, I don't know a lot of big words. Big words lose people. So you have to be able to break information down. If you want people to process what you're saying, you have to be able to break it down in what they call layman's or simplest terms to get anybody to pick it up. Because when I deal with adults, one thing that I learned as a motivational speaker is, hey, look, if you have a message that you can't convey to like a young person so they can pick it up and understand it, adults not gonna get it either. But you gotta make it simple. And I'm hoping that I'm making. I feel like I'm making it simple. That's how God gave it to me. He gave it to me very simply, from basic components from that book that I read to this movement called Jesus is Common. He gave me this stuff over time, and that puzzle came together like, oh snap! Like I have something here. So let me tell you what I hear the Lord saying, what He's shown me in the past when it comes to how do you take this worshiper talent that's in you and apply it to injustice. First and foremost, I need to ask you, do you believe that particular talent is generational? Do you see it operating in? Because I used to say, do you see it as something that has come from your parents and your grandparents and other people worshipers in your family?
I'm gonna say no, not really.
No, because most of the time this stuff is generational. Most of the time this stuff comes to us from God, but through our lineage, our family lineage. So I would encourage you. This was stuff that I found out about my family. Once I realized that I was an author and I was a writer, I found out that my dad dabbled in writing. He just never really got a chance to fully explore it. My grandmother, my mother's side was a writer, and she wrote my little short stories. And I'm like, but it amazed me that this thing that I thought just popped out of me when I was 19, it was there the whole time. So that's the one thing. Two, do you write music?
When I don't write music, but I do tend to write lyrics that come out of nowhere.
Okay, now we're getting at something. Because again, remember, this talent is not yours, it's God's. And God is a spirit. And those that love Him, that worship Him, must worship Him in spirit and in truth. And so the truth of the matter is, this now that you've untapped and uncovered this passion of yours, you know it's there. We're calling it passion now. And when it begins to interact now with this worshiper, He's going to start giving you words. He's going to start giving you lyrics that are going to not just be like random lyrics here and there, but these worshiper songs are going to begin to come out of you that begin to address the injustice of the world that you see around you, but then relate it back to the justice of Jesus, the justice of our Father in heaven, the justice of He who loves balanced scales. These things are going to begin to come to you. You need to walk around with a pen and pad and just be prepared and be able to link these things together, because something has been unlocked in the time that we've talked. That's going to, in the Bible, it says oftentimes when God begins to move, that His spirit was quickened. That just means to come alive. And this quickening is going to come alive in you, this quickening of this talent of worshiper as it relates to your passion. You're going to start to see them blend together. It's going to surprise you, though. Even though I'm telling you it's going to happen, I'm like, wow, I have a song about this. And then, do you play any instruments?
I used to play the viola, but not no more.
Not anymore? Okay, that's all right. Here's the beauty of genius. Once you recognize it in yourself, and remember we talked about zeros and nines, you're like, hey, look, I'm a good lyric writer, but I'm not a good instrument player. You're going to come in contact with someone who is a genius in instrument playing. You know what happens when an instrument player comes in contact with a lyric writer? You have the full completion, the full manifestation of a song, of songs, of albums, right? And so oftentimes how this works too, you may think that, okay, the next thing that I write is going to be about injustice, but it might not happen that way. Oftentimes, like this thing that I'm talking to you about is my third book. My first book was a book of poetry. My second book was about hip hop. But the thing that God was really preparing me to write about was this genius. They say, hey, look, I need you to kind of just sharpen your sword, sharpen your pen a little bit, and explore poetry and explore prose, right? Because I'm preparing you for this thing that I really want you to write about and address. You get what I'm saying? You're going to get songs about other things. And once you become a more seasoned songwriter and a worshiper, then the lyrics for injustice, approaching and addressing injustice are going to begin to come to you. You're going to be even as David the psalmist was. Amen?
All right. Okay.
How's that hitting you?
Well, to be honest, I'm gonna make sure I remember that. I'm gonna make sure that I jot that down somewhere later and keep that close.
Okay. All right. So I mean, that's pretty much the extent of it. It's great to hear that you have multiple angles, multiple talents to address injustice because it's needed. It needs to be approached from different angles. And it's something about music. You can talk to somebody, you can be the best communicator and talk to somebody all day about injustice, but they won't, especially someone who is on the side of the law where they're benefiting from it and it won't click for them. But it's something about a song, and I think you know this. It's something about a song that opens up our heart to receive information that we normally wouldn't. Shaking your head, you know.
Yeah, with a good beat, hey man.
Yeah. God has made us in a certain way that our soul opens up. I mean, we learned our ABCs by knowing the song "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star."
Exactly.
Right. And so that's what you're going to begin to do. You're worshiping, your songwriting is going to begin to open up people to one, receive the Spirit of the Lord, and two, to repent in their former way of thinking, to say, like, you know what, though, I don't understand this movement, that movement. Oh, I see it now, though. I see the injustice. I see how I've benefited from. You're going to turn people into allies that were formerly opposed to changing the system, rewriting the laws to make sure that everyone has equity, to make sure that equality is for everyone and not just for a certain few.
All right.
And that's pretty much it, Selena. I want to thank you for taking the time to spend with me a little bit. It's just been a little over an hour. And so, this has been Manu Forti Ministries presents Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny. I'm your host, motivational speaker, preacher, author, publisher, Reggie Key, and this has been my genius guest, worshiper, communicator extraordinaire, and teacher, Selena Kunicki.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Make sure you pick up the book, Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny, by my dad, Reggie Legend, available on Amazon and at inkwellspoken.com. Connect with us at inkwellspoken on all social media platforms. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload.